What if death, the one thing that so many of us fear, what if it isn't an end at all, but actually a beautiful transition? Now, I know that sounds like a pretty radical idea, but it's absolutely central to the classical Hindu understanding of life. So in this explainer, we're going to dive deep into this incredibly profound perspective on what really happens when we die.
It's a jarring statement, right? Death is beautiful. This very idea, it often gets met with total disbelief, but it's the heart of a deeply philosophical way of looking at life's final moments. Instead of seeing it as some terrible ending, it's viewed as a powerful and really meaningful event. In fact, the author of our source material here actually got laughed at for this when they presented this very topic for a college project. Their classmates just couldn't take it seriously. And that moment, it really highlights this massive cultural disconnect, but it also shows a real conviction that there's a powerful truth hiding inside this often misunderstood perspective. So how in the world can death be beautiful? Well, to really get it, we need to start with a few foundational concepts that pretty much shape this entire worldview. Okay, first up, we've got this concept called Mahaprasthana, which means the great journey. In this view, death isn't a full stop. It's more like a graduation. Think of it like this. The soul has learned all the lessons this particular life had to offer, and now it's just time to move on to the next class.
And who's the traveler on this great journey? Well, that's the soul. The soul is seen as this immortal, totally indestructible body of light. It's the real you, the essence of who you are. And all your memories, your intelligence, your awareness, all of it, it sticks with the soul, from one life to the next.
So what's the engine driving this journey? That would be karma. Now, it's a word we hear a lot, but you can basically think of it as a cosmic balance sheet of actions and their consequences. And the soul, it keeps going through this cycle of birth and rebirth until that karmic account is finally all settled up. All right, so with those core ideas in our back pocket, let's look at the actual timeline of the soul's journey. The source material lays out this fascinating and really precise sequence of events that begins even before a person takes their last breath. So here's the basic roadmap. Notice it starts hours before death when the soul's connection to the earth literally starts to unplug. Then, at the moment of death, the soul pops out of the body. After that, it actually hangs around for a little while, until these really important family rituals help it move on. And the whole thing wraps up 1 year later, when the soul gets its final life review. So let's break this down step by step. Okay, so what happens at that exact moment of death? Well, the texts talk about an astral pranic thread. You can picture it like a spiritual silver cord that connects the soul to the physical body. And the finality of death, that's the moment this cord is cut. That's the real point of no return. Once it's free from the body, the soul shrinks down into this thumb-sized body of light, which is called the linga sharira. And get this, it isn't alone. It's immediately met by its guide for this next leg of the trip, Yama, the god of death. And that brings us to a really crucial part of all this. What happens to the physical body? How it's treated is considered absolutely vital for the soul's journey, which is exactly why the practice of cremation is so central to this whole process. The reasoning here is pretty deep. The idea is that preserving the body, through burial, can actually trap the soul. It gets confused, can even feel pain if the body is disturbed, and it stays attached, which makes it really hard to move on. Cremation, on the other hand, is seen as an act of liberation. It's a clear, decisive message that tells the soul it's free from its old vessel. And the philosophy behind it is just beautiful in its simplicity. The body is seen as just a temporary loan from nature, made of the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and sky. So cremation is just the most direct way of returning that loan, dissolving the body right back into where it came from. And in this state, the soul basically becomes a silent observer. It lingers, it watches, it can see and hear its loved ones saying their goodbyes. It witnesses its own funeral, which is this really poignant final act of closure that gives it the understanding it needs to finally let go and continue its journey. But the journey is not over yet, not even close. After cremation, the focus really shifts to the family that's left behind. The next 12 days become this period of intense ritual, and all of it is designed to do one final thing: help the departed soul on its way. This 12-day window is absolutely critical. Through really specific prayers and rituals, the family is actively helping the soul cut its final emotional ties to the world. Any leftover anger or fear or regret, making sure its journey forward is as light and unburdened as possible. One of the most important ceremonies actually happens on the 10th day. This ritual involves making 10 little balls of barley, And each one symbolically represents and honors a part of the person's physical body, from their head to their toes, before they're finally returned to nature in a river.
So once all these rituals are done, the soul goes through one last transformation. It stops being just the wandering spirit and gets an upgrade, you could say, to the status of a priti, which is an honored ancestral spirit. And in this new form, it can finally reunite with the whole lineage of ancestors and spiritual guides that are waiting for it.
And this reunion brings the soul to the final stage of its great journey. After a year of transition, it faces the ultimate review before it gets ready for the next chapter in this great cycle of existence.
Exactly 1 year after death, the soul arrives in Yama's kingdom for its final judgment. Here, in front of a divine karmic board, the soul doesn't just get a report card of its life, it relives it. It sees every single action and understands every consequence with this perfect, crystal clarity.
Now, based on this life review, the soul goes to a realm that reflects its karma. But here's the really crucial part to understand. Neither heaven nor hell is permanent. One is a temporary reward, the other is a temporary classroom for facing consequences. They're just stops along the way. They are not the final destination.
So once its time in these realms is up and the lessons have been learned, the soul has to be reborn. The karma it has left determines what kind of form it will take. Could be anything from a plant to an animal to a human. And being born human is seen as the ultimate privilege because that form offers the greatest opportunity to learn, to grow, and to finally break the cycle for good.
Which brings us right back to where we started. This whole framework presents death not as some terrifying final end, but as a beautiful, logical, and meaningful transition in a truly epic journey. And that leaves us with a pretty profound question to think about. If this life is just one stop on a great journey, how does that change the way we should be living our lives, right here, right now?